Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today it is another ranking video. And of course, we will be looking at the Dark Pictures Season 1. So this one is going to be the non-playable characters from Season 1, and we're going to be ranking the game by the characters. So of course we did put a poll out a little while ago. We're now going to quickly go through with what you voted for. So going from worst to best, we have Little Hope in 4th place. In 3rd place, we have The Devil in Me. In 2nd place, we have Man of Medan. And our runaway winner is House of Ashes with 81% out of a total of 304 votes. So thank you for everyone that did vote for this poll. And we won't say any more because we're now going to go into our ranking. As a little spoiler, me and Liam do have this exact same ranking for this one, so we're not going to be combining our lists at the end. But yeah, we're going to go from worst to best, and we're going to start with
So coming in at number 4, the one that does not win a medal, we have The Devil in Me, which is very surprising because The Devil in Me is ranked very highly in other ranks, but it falls flat on the side characters one. I guess, one thing I will say is that it doesn't really give us too much opportunity for side characters. We have our main playable 5, and we have a killer chasing us around, but other than that, we don't really have anyone else. I guess it's not really the game's fault. The game goes for that Saw-esque feel where you're isolated in this hotel room. So of course not. We're not going to get a lot of interesting side characters like we are in other games. So bit of an unfair ranking for The Devil in Me, but it was always going to fall quite low here. And I was really intrigued to see that people didn't put it rock bottom, to be honest. Because I don't know, I think Little Hope did things stronger than The Devil in Me with the side characters. I mean, who have we got really, Jack? We've got Connie the dog. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. There's a dog in the game, but I don't want to be too blinded by the fact we love animals. We have to somewhat be disciplined and professional on the channel. I'm going to rule out the fact Connie could have been in any of the other games. So I'm not going to, let that blind me. We've got Holmes, who I thought was a really interesting character to start. It was very chilling, well written. And Demet, it almost feels really harsh to judge because, the guy's the monster of the game, right? That would be assessing Wendigos or, the vampire bat creatures. And then we have Morello, who's a bit of a nothing dull character who's just sort of used as a ploy for the story. So yeah, there's just not too much going on with The Devil in Me side characters. So that is why I, and Jack presumably, I ranked it smack bang at the bottom.
Yeah, I think the overall problem with The Devil in Me is the fact that you don't have enough time or there's not enough depth into the characters, at least when you're face to face with them. So take Dumet, for example. Everything you learn about Dumet is through clues, maybe the scenes with Manny Sherman. You're not necessarily learning about Dumet. When you're in the presence of Dumet, he's a silent, masked killer chasing after you, obviously in homage to other, horror franchises, whether it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, and so on. But you don't necessarily learn too much about Hector Monday. With, say, Morello, yeah, you're right, he is a bit of a ploy, and again, he's not in it long enough. Because he's acting, you don't know much about him. We know that he had a family that was on the island, but that's about it. H.H. Holmes is perhaps the one that pulls this one up a bit, but not enough because it's literally just a prologue character. So yeah, it is odd. I did say in a previous ranking video, is there going to be something where The Devil in Me finishes bottom? And yeah, it is this list according to us, mate. So we can now rock on to 3rd place, the bronze medal. Okay, so for the Man of Medan, the characters that we were talking about in relation as non-playable for this were, of course, the pirates, so Olsen Danny Jr., the Chinese punching doll woman. We thought it was a bit of a left field choice, but nonetheless, you do interact with her. The fortune teller, Sergeant Ferris, and Sailor Girl. So, of course, this is the third place in our list. I think the reason for me is that with Olsen, it's a strong start, of course, when you're getting onto the Duke of Milan and they're taking the characters hostage. Danny is perhaps the quieter of the three. He doesn't necessarily do much. Junior, again, like, you can say that he's got a sense of morality because he is talking about, when you can peek through the hole, he's talking to Olsen about, keeping the characters prisoners and stuff. You shouldn't be leaving them while we go off and look for the gold and such. So he's got a little bit of depth to him, and of course you have that famous scene where he can shoot himself because of the mist, etc. Of course, all the other characters, of course, you've got Ferris in there, the sergeant, who just randomly punches and knocks Joe out because they're having a little bit of a ruckus over 50 cents. Sailor Girl's just really cool, like you said in a previous video, mate. But one of the first things you think of Medan is that shot where you've got Comrade and then you've got the shot of the Sailor Girl. And it sort of transitions from sort of like a very nice looking woman to something demonic over Conrad's shoulder. It's just like one of those iconic DPA shots. And then of course you can't read too much into the fortune teller as well. So it did fall third. I just feel like that the other two games did something a bit stronger, mate. I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, I think the main thing that really sways this game above the Devil in Me, for me, it has to be the pirates, because although, we have three people who hold us hostage, drag us onto this ship, there is depth to them. Like we know with Junior, there's the thing where he's slightly sensitive. He might be like the little brother who's been roped into these, shenanigans that everyone's doing. Olsen, quite a compelling lead villain for the game. It's just the fact as well that they are humans, but they're tripping and hallucinating on this Manchurian gold, which makes them a really compelling, unique threat. That although they're killing you or going after you, there is an element of innocence to it, because they honestly believe what they're doing is right and that they think you are a genuine threat. So it is really cool to see these pirates on the ship, and I do think they hold a little bit of depth there. And like Jack mentioned, the Sailor Girl, just a really cool, interesting villain. The iconic scene, right? I like the fact that Conrad sees her as a poster girl and then she comes to life. It just has that little bit over the Devil in Me in terms of side characters, because not only did we get more, but I do think there is a bit more depth and liberty to play with in the writing there. So I guess it goes to our silver medal. We have gone for none other than, come on guys, it's Little Hope. We know what's taken the gold medal in this category. Yes, I guess the people that we're going to be judging is Vince. Maybe the cop at the start. He's in it, guys. We have to rate him. Anyone from the flashbacks, whether we're talking Mary, Carver, Abraham, Tabitha, etc., etc., and none other than the iconic Clark prologue family. I guess I'll kick off with Vince. He's just a really good character, to be honest. There's not too much going on there. He's just that shady guy in the bar who's pretty much the only side character in the present day, while you're in the bulk of the story anyway. He acts more as sort of a story ploy for the big twist at the end when you look back at his behaviour, why he was acting the way he is. And it's really interesting to see that he was just an innocent guy who was actually in the right while you're in the wrong when he looks creepy at first. I quite like that as a twist. Jack and I mentioned time and time again about the prologue family. You're probably sick to death of hearing it, so skip ahead if you want. But how rare is it that we have a prologue group that, in my opinion, are stronger than the main group in the story, despite having way, way less time with them. I think that could be a compliment to this family, but more likely it's a heavy criticism at the main cast of 5. But like we always mention, I was really invested in this Clark family. From the arguing parents with the alcoholic dad, going through the hardships with, the factory closing. You've got, the siblings arguing. You've got this Megan girl who's got this demon behind her. Dennis, who's into his records with the fashion. I just really like this Clark family. And I have to really compliment the flashback characters as well, with the accents going on and the fashion. Everything from Carver, the judge, to Mary. It just, had a really cool setting, and, you really bought into these guys who were getting, punished and believed to be witches and demons. So yeah, it just had so much more layer and emotion and depth over the other two games that we've previously mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we're looking at Little Hope, there are a hell of a lot more characters, in terms of side characters to look at. Of course, there might be some of you watching thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this, because, of course, there are doppelgangers involved. And then, of course, you have the Prologue family that are, I suppose, the real form of, the characters that we play in the game. But, of course, it's just based off of the memory of one man. I think looking at Vince is that I just, he's not, I'm not going to say that he's one of the best side characters in the whole of DPA, but I do love the depth there. You can see this very depressed, solitary man drinking on his own at a bar in a dead town. That's weird to think about, full stop. He must have had a lot of trauma, really, to, be doing that. Of course, as well, we can have the interactions with him at the end, where he's, he can either come along and just talk to Anthony. We have the whole flashback scene, and of course, we even have him in the curator's cut at the start when he's talking to Tanya, in the car before she goes into the house. There is a little bit of depth to the guy, so I appreciate that. As Liam touched on, the Prologue family, absolutely fantastic, very believable, and I've not really got anything else more to add on them. And then as far as the flashback characters, again, very strong performances across the board. I really bought into Carver being the main antagonist of the plot, and when I was first playing Little Hope, I was thinking, how does this whole witch segment tie in to the main game? Because of course, even in the present day, you're walking around and you're seeing that there's this Carver that's basically, ended the town and the people's employment there because he's just, he bought up things, or I can't actually remember the full back story of it. But yeah, you're just wondering how all these moving parts and characters come into it. So of course there is obviously a slight unfairness because there's more characters to talk about. But nonetheless, I do think that Little Hope did very well with its side characters and deserves the silver medal. So, unsurprisingly, our gold medal goes to House of Ashes. And of course, the characters that we're referring to are Merwin, Joey, Clarice, Dar, and we've even thrown the hazmat guys in there as well. And we'll start with them. We'll start at the end. Of course, we don't really know who they are, but they are dropping a massive Easter egg about Winterfold. And of course, there is the suggestion that this is going to be a whole cover-up. So straight off the bat, these are fairly morally corrupt people because, or you could argue they're following orders, but nonetheless, they're pushing something under the carpet that it should be, maybe publicised. Then, of course, going to say a character like Dar, obviously he does serve as an antagonist. Of course, he's on the Iraqi side. He does provide that human threat while the team are down in the caves. And I'm pretty sure as well there's a scene where you play as Salim and you find a photograph of Dar and his wife, I think. And I just thought that was a really nice touch that he's not a completely two-dimensional villain. He does have a life away from this conflict. And then, of course, you're then referring to Merwin, Joey and Clarice. All fantastic characters, and they all get their moment. Joey more to the start of the game because, of course, we know he dies early. But we can see that he's the one that is a bit more nervous about going into the conflict. He'd be much happier sitting behind a desk and, sitting the whole thing out. There's Merwin, who's got to be probably my favourite side character in all of Season 1. I love the jokes, the voice acting, it's very convincing. Just the chemistry that he has with the rest of the crew. The fact as well that he can die early, or you can keep him alive to the point where he gets the radio working, which is just such a fantastic addition. to like keep that character rolling in the game. And then of course we got Clarice, and first thing I think about Clarice is like the deep moment that she has with Rachel, like when they're down, further down underground, and there's like that very haunting section where you can like choose to abandon her. And of course we know that she can also become a vampire and go on to kill Eric as well. So these characters, I think why they come top, it's more quality over quantity. And I just feel like that this tight-knit band offers so much on screen in near enough the same amount of time as like the other games. So yeah, that's basically why House of Ashes comes top for me.
No, I completely agree with all those points. Like another character as well, which we could mention, is the Arcadian King at the start. A really threatening aura of power to him, and the fashion's really cool, and like he just really makes the prologue the way he's sat in his throne amid the war setting. So yeah, just a really serviceable prologue side character there. Yeah, I mean Jack's touched on most things there, especially about Dar, the hazmat guys. But yeah, I think we can't sugarcoat it. It's the three in the American army that like win this whole thing, right? In Joey, Merwin, and Clarice. Or Clarice, I once got corrected on that one, so I might get it wrong throughout this video, so I'm very sorry in advance. But yeah, like, Joey's probably the lesser of the three, but still a really compelling character. It's cool that, he becomes a vampire later, and there's that depth there. Merwin and Clarice, now, although I've seen people call Merwin, like, misogynistic, and, but, like, he is, like, every army faction probably has someone like that. He's very bantery, he's very laddie and alpha. But, at the end of the day, he does have, like, that quality to him where he looks after his peers and people clearly care about him and he has your back. Like Jack said, it's cool. You get this whole trophy about him, whether you keep him alive or not. With Clarice, like Jack mentioned, you have the whole rope scene. It's nice that you get a really cool badass female scene of him and Rachel linking up. Whether she can come back, kill Eric, whether she just ditches to go across so she can, like, save you by dying by herself. It's actually really dark, but really compelling. One thing I love about this whole House of Ashes thing, the reason why it wins this category today, guys, is because every other game just has the cast of 5 by themselves. But this House of Ashes game give us loads more side characters with a lot more dialogue. And, they're not just sort of random background characters, with no emotion. They're, like, characters with a lot of depth and, gut to them. So, like, I just thought it was a really bold step that they gave us all these extra people. And yeah, like, it's actually a little bit heart-throbbing when you lose them. So there was only one place this game could rank. And unfortunately, if anyone who disagrees, it is first, I'm afraid. And it takes the gold medal in a heartbeat.
I think as well, mate, as like a little pattern, why we've gone with these two being, 1 and 2, that being House of Ashes and Little Hope, is we've both said the same thing. With Little Hope, you've got the Clark family, and you could even throw Vince into the mix here, but they're characters in their own right that are arguably better than some of the playable characters we get in the game. Same with House of Ashes. Do you know what I mean? Me personally, I'd happily swap out Nick for Merwin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Just like, and obviously even Clarice and Joey, like they're strong in their own right as well. You can perhaps say, there might be people out there that would rather have Joey in than Eric, for example. I don't know. But yeah, like I feel like that's where it comes down. Maybe with the other games, and of course, with the Devil in Me, with Morello and Dumet and stuff and Holmes, it's difficult because most of them are villains. But they're not necessarily characters that you would bring into the main cast of 5, even the same with Medan. So I feel like that I don't know about you, mate, I'm quite satisfied with our list.
Oh, completely satisfied. I mean, I think we have it spot on. I know it was very different to how the poll churned out. Devil in Me came, 3rd was it? And Man of Medan 2nd or whatever. Little Hope 4th. So, like, yeah, quite different other than the House of Ashes agreement. So yeah, like, obviously thank you to all the comments that came in. It was mainly House of Ash praise, but yeah, I'm really intrigued to know why Little Hope finished last. Maybe people don't buy into the prologue and the flashback sequences as much as we do in that game, lad. That's my only thinking there.
Potentially, yeah, but of course, do let us know in the comments, guys. maybe your verdict's changed. Maybe when you did the poll, you was only thinking about a small selection of characters. Maybe seeing this video, it's opened things up a little bit. Let us know, agree, disagree, give us your thoughts. We like reading and replying to them. Of course, do continue to look out for future ranking videos in the future, because we do have a couple of ideas in the pipeline. So that's all from me, lad. Anything from you?
Nah, well, thank you very much for joining, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.